Alrighty. Hmm. Oh yeah. Should we watch? Should we watch this homeless economist video? Oh, I have to put my foot.
Taxation, talk about economic
Starting
stuff.
over.
And yeah, yes, the homeless economist is mobile. I use this vehicle to spread the message, talk about land value taxation, talk about economic stuff. And yeah, you could say I have a mobile business. Sometimes I sleep out of this car. Sometimes I choose to. I want to. But anyway, heavens to Betsy, it's hot out here. Heavens
Oh, this is
gracious.
8. I thought it was
I
like
think
3
uh, I
minutes.
think I need to slip into something a little more comfortable.
What's gonna happen to those
Oh,
suspenders?
much better. Why don't you meet me at the trunk in about 20 minutes? I'm glad you can make it. This is the trunk. Might need to blur that out. Not sure. Not sure what the legality there is. All right. I don't care if people know my license plate. You guys can track me down. You guys can kill me if you want. Now check this out.
No, never.
I've been working on this for a long time. This is the tool I developed. It's an educational tool, and if you don't know this, the homeless economist runs a man. This camera sucks. Runs a degree program. I give out
Oh,
economics
3-minute
degrees in
economics
finance.
degree. The video is. Oh wow, here we go.
So over here we have the tax system we have, and I don't really bother to explain all that. You can read every little box there. Let me just preface: these graphics were made by a lady named Janning, who's associated with the land value tax movement. I frequent the Discord and have communicated with her on a few things. Very intelligent, and created these wonderful little graphics here. But this graphic shows the current property tax system and how absolutely overcomplicated, convoluted, a spider was on my phone, and ridiculous it is. The green arrows here are essentially what's like salvageable, what's good about the current tax system. Increases in community activity increases demand for space, locations, land, that sort of thing. And this will increase the value of locations. So a place becomes more valuable if there's
You
more
got
demand
Henry
for it.
George to
Also
sign.
applies to other natural opportunities. That could be like
Impressive.
intellectual property, natural resources, oil, things like that. Anyway, so that increases the value of land. That's what that little icon is there. Location value goes up. Location fees facilitate reclamation of community generated value and sustains demand for government issued currency. So what that means is that taking back the money that is being made by the community collectively makes a certain kind of wealth in location values. So fees or taxes would go back into the community, and then the community would invest in itself, and it feeds a virtuous cycle. The red is
Hmm.
all the useless crap that we can eliminate if we switch our property tax system over. It's all the HOAs, private local governments, essentially how they work. Inefficient high location fees go to just landlords. Landlords accumulate money at banks. The banks also own land, so they bid up the prices of housing, so people can't afford housing. And a very complex system emerges when you allow all these private entities to swarm in and take over what should be a simple cycle of location value. Uh, Location value feeds government, government feeds people, people feeds location values, and it's a virtuous cycle. All these other complicated things here add many layers of inefficiency, and what we have as a result is unaffordable housing. Rent is too damn high. crime and poverty and pollution because it's inefficient land use, and high taxes. Workers have to pay taxes. Um, Businesses have to pay taxes. That increases costs to consumers. It's hell, man. It's absolute hell. We don't need this system anymore. We could switch to the simplified land value tax system where the value increase of a location that the community collectively creates, it goes, this just means different levels of government. So like federal government could just take the excess revenue, the excess money that the state government has, and the state government could just run on the excess money that the local county government collects. Local county governments are the ones we land value tax people like to talk about because they handle property taxes, property assessments, that type of thing. So if there was a land value tax system, it would be a local government based thing. You know, the federal government, instead of the current system we have where local governments depend on the federal government for some block grants, for some treats, financial treats now and then, it's the other way around. Local government takes the lead on this, you know, financial setup we have here. And all of this comes back through public investment, you know, building roads, waterways, electricity, you name it. Public government investment increases land values. So it's a virtuous cycle. It's basically the green part of this without all the extra, you know, private land market problems. What we have here is this is my degree that you can earn. That could be your name there. But anyway, if you allow me to explain it to you in 3 minutes or less, you get a degree. I'll write your name on a degree. Here is the 2 books I also recommend people when I'm teaching them this stuff. This is, well, I'll start with the older one. This is Progress and Poverty by Henry George, the original text that's about land value taxation, landlords, all that stuff. It was written in 1879, but still applies to today. And although he talks about land speculation and landlords and things, it still applies to today. And this is kind of a modernized version. Land is a Big Deal by Lars Doucette. I always recommend this book to people because it's like taking the ideas from that and putting it in a modern setting. And Lars Doucette, he's a great guy. He's a game developer, game designer. So he uses video games and, well, just games in general to explain how it works. So if you're a Zoomer, if you're a little internet guy, he'll explain how it works in that book. That's a great book.
It's a good
So
overview
now
of
that
the
I explained all
program.
that stuff, I'd like you to join me for a nice Sunday, what I like to call my nice Sunday drive and dumpster dive. Time for a drive and a dumpster dive on this nice Sunday. Time for a Sunday dumpster dive. Time for a Sunday. Time for a Sunday dumpster dive and drive. Let's get in.
What?
Yes, the homeless economist is mobile. I I use this vehicle to spread the message, talk about land value taxation, talk about economic stuff. And yeah, you could say I have a mobile business. Sometimes I sleep out of this.
All right. That's education is fine, but we're here for to dispatch our religious duty. Welcome to the 84th Henry George Daily Devotional. We are in chapter 3, the proposition tried by the canons of taxation. I do not think ideas of which I speak can be entertained by the reader who has yeah. He's like, you you can't really buy the ideas I've just been saying, so we have to really discuss it. We are in book 8, application of the remedy. George writes, the best tax by which public revenues can be raised is evidently that which will closest conform to the following conditions. 1. That it bear as lightly as possible upon production so as least to check the increase of the general fund from which taxes must be paid and the community maintained. That it be easily and cheaply collected and fall as directly as may be upon the ultimate payers, so as to take from the people as little as possible in addition to what it yields the government. 3. That it be certain, so as to give the least opportunity for tyranny or corruption on the part of officials, and the least temptation to law breaking and evasion on the part of the taxpayers. 4. That it bear equally, so as to give no citizen an advantage or put at a disadvantage as compared with others. Let us consider what form of taxation best accords with these conditions, whatever it be, that evidently will be the best mode in which the public revenues can be raised. 1. Yes, this is chapter 3 with 5 sub-chapters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 4 sub-chapters. I don't think we'll make it through all of them. Alright, here we go. The effect of taxes upon production. All taxes must evidently come from the produce of land and labor, since there is no other source of wealth than the union of human exertion with the material and forces of nature. But the manner in which equal amounts of taxation may be imposed may very differently affect the production of wealth. Taxation which lessens the reward of the producer necessarily lessens the incentive to production. Taxation which is, this is reminding me, maybe I talked about this last time, Hauser's law. It's just the empirical observation that in the United States, federal tax revenues since World War II have always been approximately equal to 19.5% of GDP, regardless of wide fluctuations in the marginal tax rate. So that's why some people argue the most important thing is simply growing GDP, and then whatever tax you do, you'll get 20% of it. But that is what some people argue. There are things you could respond. Um, Taxation which lessens the reward of the producer necessarily lessens the incentive to production. Taxation which is conditioned upon the act of production or the use of any of the three factors of production necessarily discourages production. Thus, taxation which diminishes the earnings of the laborer or the returns of the capitalist tends to render the one less industrious and intelligent, the other less disposed to save and invest. Taxation, which falls upon the processes of production, interposes an artificial obstacle to the creation of wealth. Taxation, which falls upon labor as it is exerted. I'm sorry, all these yawns. Where are they coming from? Wealth as it is used as taxation that falls on labor, income tax. Wealth as it is used as capital. It's not quite a capital gains tax, but land as it is cultivated will manifestly tend to discourage production much more powerfully than taxation to the same amount levied upon laborers. Whether they work or play, hmm, hmm, okay. That first taxation that falls upon labor as it is exerted versus uh, the same levied upon laborers whether they work or play. A kind of tax that's levied regardless, not because they work or play. Okay. Yeah. The taxation to the same amount levied upon workers, whether they work or play, upon wealth, whether used productively or unproductively, or upon land, whether cultivated or left waste. Yes, okay, I'm with you. The mode of taxation is, in fact, quite as important as the amount, as a small burden badly placed may distress a horse that could carry with ease a much larger one, properly adjusted. So a people may be impoverished and their power of producing wealth destroyed by taxation. Yes. How much weight can you carry in a good backpack versus if you had to carry it with your pinky finger? I don't know. And so a people may be impoverished and their power of producing wealth destroyed by taxation, which, if levied in another way, could be borne with ease. A tax on date trees imposed by Muhammad Ali caused the Egyptian fellahs to cut down their trees, but a tax of twice the amount imposed on the land produced no such result. The tax of 10% on all sales imposed by the Duke of Alva in the Netherlands would, had it been maintained, have all but stopped exchange while yielding but little revenue. What is is there a federal sales tax? Um, California, we have the combined is 7%. This is the total. California is 6%, and then with I guess federal is like 1.75%. We're not far from that. But we need not go abroad for illustrations, and yet we do still have a lot of trade. So, But we need not go abroad for illustrations. The production of wealth in the United States is largely lessened by taxation, which bears upon its processes. Shipbuilding, in which we excelled, has been all but destroyed. So far as the foreign trade is concerned, and many branches of production and exchange seriously crippled by taxes which divert industry from more to less productive forms. This checking of production is in greater or less degree characteristic of most of the taxes by which the revenues of modern government are raised. All taxes upon manufactures, all taxes upon commerce, all taxes upon capital, all taxes upon improvements are of this kind. Their tendency is the same as that of Muhammad Ali's tax on date trees, though their effect may not be so clearly seen. All right, will show us these effects. All such taxes have a tendency to reduce the production of wealth, and should therefore never be resorted to when it is possible to raise money by taxes which do not check production. Yeah, all this seems pretty straightforward to me. Doesn't need much commentary. Um, This becomes possible as society develops and wealth accumulates. Taxes which fall upon ostentation would simply turn into the public treasury what otherwise would be wasted in vain show for the sake of show. And taxes upon wills and devices of the rich would probably have little effect in checking the desire for accumulation, which, after it has got hold of a man, becomes a blind passion. I'm not sure what's so bad about if he's saying taxes upon ostentation, you know, like a yacht tax, it would simply turn into the public treasury what otherwise would be wasted in vain, show for the sake of show. I mean, that's a complaint? I don't know. And tax upon wills and the rich would probably have little effect in checking the desire for accumulation. Um, yeah, that's a point I don't make much when I'm talking about um, like if there's a way for somebody to hoard a bunch of wealth to the detriment of others, they probably are going to do that as much as they can in their life if they want to do that, whether or not they can pass it on, I suppose. I don't know. But the great class of taxes from which revenue may be derived without interference with production are taxes upon monopolies. For the profit of monopoly is in itself a tax levied upon production. Yeah, like the power of a monopoly is sort of generally thought to be in proportion to how much it retards production in that area of industry, in that industry. And to tax it is to simply divert into the public coffers what production must in any event pay. There are among us various sorts of monopolies. For instance, there are the temporary monopolies created by the patent and copyright laws. There has been a like 500 message discussion on the Discord, George's on Discord in the last 24 hours about patents and copyright. Uh, these, it would seem, These it would be extremely unjust and unwise to tax, inasmuch as they are but recognitions of the right of labor to its intangible productions, and constitute a reward held out to invention and authorship. Now, I think, is this the footnote where he goes back on patents? Following the habit of confounding the exclusive right granted by a patent and that granted by a copyright as recognitions of the right of labor to its intangible productions, I and this fell into error, which I subsequently acknowledged and corrected in the Standard of June 23. The Standard is the George's newspaper that Henry George ran for several years in 1888. The two things are not alike, but essentially different. The copyright is not a right to the exclusive use of a fact, an idea, or a combination, which by the natural law of property all are free to use, but only to the labor expended in the thing itself. It does not prevent anyone from using for himself the facts, the knowledge, the laws, or combinations for a similar production, but only from using the identical form of the particular book or other production, the actual labor which has, in short, been expended in producing it. It rests, therefore, upon the natural moral right of each one to enjoy the products of his own exertion, and involves no interference with the similar right of anyone else to do likewise. Um, yeah, he's arguing that patent and uh, hold on, there's someone at the door. Okay. Um, yes, this is where he says he approves of copyright, but patents he does not approve of. The patent, on the other hand, prohibits anyone from doing a similar thing, and it involves, usually for a specified time, an interference with the equal liberty on which the right of ownership rests. Copyright is therefore in accordance with the moral law. It gives to the man who has expended the intangible labor required to write a particular book or paint a picture security against the copying of that identical thing. The patent is in defiance of this natural right. It prohibits others from doing what has been already attempted. Everyone has a moral right to think what I think, or to perceive what I perceive, or to do what I do, no matter whether he gets the hint from me or independently of me. Discovery can give no right of ownership, for whatever is discovered must have been already here to be discovered. If a man make a wheelbarrow, or a book, or a picture, he has a moral right to that particular wheelbarrow, or book, or picture, but no right to ask that others be prevented from making similar things. Such a prohibition, though given for the purpose of stimulating discovery and invention, really in the long run operates as a check upon them. Yeah. Yeah, like I'm sold on the patent argument. The funny thing is when I start feeling that maybe copyright should also be abolished. So here's the raw argument for the copyright is that, you know, you should get the reward of your creation. Um, but you do. Like if you write a book, you have that book. You paint a painting, you have that painting. It's a question of copying. Um, and if you give me some digital good, or like, I mean, I don't know, you make a video game, you can play it, you give me that video game. I mean, you probably just make a copy of it and give me that copy anyway. Like, that's how digital transfer works these days. It's not all just on a disc. And I can still play my video game. And the more you copy my game, doesn't affect that at all. Hmm. Yeah, the principal argument is a weird one. And then for a long time, I was very persuaded of the sort of empirical argument, which is like, or not even empirical, the other argument, which is like, um, we need to we need to incentivize innovation, and we also don't want people who innovate to keep those things secret from the rest of society. So though, like the inspire innovation argument is not very persuasive to me anymore, but it is definitely just sort of an intuitive thing, and it's hard to think of lots of examples where people didn't innovate because they're like, hey, I mean, we've had the patent system for so long, but I just tend to think that we were sort of on an exponential curve of tech, and humans generally are on progress or of technological progress. And I guess I remember here a friend was describing, he says, you know, um, where did he list? GPS, lasers, the internet, semiconductors, materials research, COVID vaccines. Uh, those were all, um, I guess, from government research, maybe he's saying, or academics or non uh, patented. Anyway, those are patents, not copyright anyway. All right, back to George. So in the original text, he said copy. He said all IP is okay, but then he said no, 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 patent's bad, copyright's okay. Then he continues. He says there are also the onerous monopolies alluded to in Chapter 4 of Book 3, which result from the aggregation of capital and businesses, which are of the nature of monopolies. But while it would be extremely difficult, if not altogether impossible, to levy taxes by general law so that they would fall exclusively on the returns of such monopoly, and not become taxes on production or exchange, it is much better that these monopolies should be abolished. In large part, they spring from legislative commission or omission, as, for instance, the ultimate reason that San Francisco merchants are compelled to pay more for goods sent direct in New York from New York to San Francisco by the Isthmus route than it costs to ship them from New York to Liverpool or Southampton and thence to San Francisco, is to be found in the protective laws which make it so costly to build American steamers, and which forbid foreign steamers to carry goods between American ports. The reason that residents of Nevada are compelled to pay as much freight from the East as though their goods were carried to San Francisco and back again is that the authority which prevents extortion on the part of a hack driver is not exercised in respect to a railroad company. And it may be said generally that businesses which are in their nature monopolies are properly part of the functions of the state and should be assumed by the state. There is the same reason why government should carry telegraphic messages as that it should carry letters. The railroads should belong to the public as that common roads should. Yeah, sometimes I wonder about what is the principle of what should be government role, excuse me, versus the market and the idea of these natural monopolies. Like, technically, the justification for common roads, I recall reading, was sort of, this is circular with it, which is, oh, we have a national letter delivery system. So because a postman is a public employee, that way we will assume the burden of building all the roads and the whole system, network of roads. But now, currently, snail mail is it's not clear that we even need it. I mean, and look at, I mean, I guess UPS, FedEx, they can only function because of the roads that have been created. I don't know. some libertarians do talk about, well, what would the world look like with the privatization of roads? It's weird. Um, all right, we didn't even finish section one, but I'm gonna end it there. See ya.